Alright guys, well what we're gonna do is go ahead and I'm gonna walk you through these first 16 pages. So you can see down here we're on page 1 of 16. And if you feel like you can do this without going through these videos, by all means that is totally fine. You're absolutely welcome to do that. If you get stuck and you need to come back, I'll try to split them up into a couple pages in each video, so you don't have to go through everything to find it again. But over on the side, you'll see that there's a lot of kind of instructions or just some lessons over here that you are going to have to read. So you are going to need to go through and read this. And that's really important to do, to read through this so that you know what you're going to do over here. This is the panel that you're going to type in. And then over here is like your mini web page where you should see the results of what you type here. So let's go ahead and get started. It says Introduction to HTML, welcome to the world of code. I'm going to skip down a little bit where it says, so what exactly is HTML? HTML provides structure to the content appearing on a website, such as images, text, or videos. And HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So if you've never heard of the term hypertext is kind of a little bit of an older term. We used to call, when I was about your guys' age, we used to call links hypertext because they were text that were highlighted, usually blue, and you could click on it and it would take you somewhere else. Well, eventually somewhere down the road that became known as hyperlinks, and then eventually it just got shortened to links. So this is still, though, a little bit of an older term called hypertext. And markup is just the way that we write, and the way that you write the code. And then language, obviously, because coding is a language, you do have to know a lot of different terminology and codes and things in order to be able to do that. So learning HTML is the first step in creating websites, but even a bit of knowledge can help you inject code snippets into newsletters, blogs, or website templates. As you continue learning, you can layer HTML with CSS and JavaScript to create visually compelling and dynamic websites. But for now, we're going to focus on how to add and modify basic content on a page, like text, images, and videos. Don't worry if the websites look ugly. We're just getting started. Now, once you've gone through and you've read all of that intro part, the lesson, you'll see then that there's some instructions. And kind of similar to maybe like your math class, if you go through, you might have like examples or different things that you are looking at that kind of teach you about how to do it. But then they're going to give you some different questions that you have to go through and be able to answer. And the questions are not necessarily going to be the same as the example. They might be like set up the same, but they're not the same. So don't just come down here and see the instructions and say, oh, well, I got to deal with something that whatever they did up here. Now, this is going to be like your example maybe, but this is going to be a little bit different what you need to do. So you see over here it says in the code editor. That's this part. This is the code editor where you can actually edit your code. You're going to type your name in between where it says H1, and then it's inside of these brackets, and then /H1. So we're going to come right over here. You're going to put your cursor right in between there, put your name, and then down here you're going to hit run. And when you do that, you should see over here that it says your name. Right? And once you've done that, you'll see that you should get this green check mark, and then hit next to go to the next page. Now, this is where we're really going to start to be learning about what it is that we're doing. So this page kind of breaks down the anatomy of a web page and of the different elements that we're going to use. So HTML is composed of elements, and these elements structure the web page and define its content. Let's take a look at how they're written. So the diagram to the right displays an HTML paragraph. As we can see, the paragraph element is made up of an opening tag. So anytime you see like where it has these brackets, and then there's some letter or a word or different things inside of these brackets, that's what's called a tag, right? And so we put like what looks like these little sideways V's those are brackets, and we put those around our code. And when we put these little sideways v's, these brackets, and we put some code inside it, the web page, or the web browser rather, knows not to display that part, but just to take this part and to know what to do with it. So this is saying create a paragraph, and then whatever is inside in between that is what's actually going to show up on our web page. But just like if you think about if you're using parentheses, and if you open a parentheses, you have kind of your opening parentheses here, then at some point you also have to close your parentheses, and so you would have like your closing parentheses. Well, that's the same thing with HTML as well. When you have an opening tag, at some point you also have to close it and say that's the end. So if we said this is the start of our paragraph, and then we said here's our paragraph here, then we also have to close our paragraph as well, and we do that by putting this forward slash. That forward slash in front of the same thing that we had there. So we had our P here to say this is a paragraph. We put our forward slash and then our P again. That tells it, our web browser, that that's the end of the paragraph. So now it knows, okay, everything in between here is a paragraph. This starts the paragraph. This ends the paragraph. So it's very important to have an opening tag and a closing tag. And almost everything will have that closing tag as well. So the element is this whole thing. It's made up of the opening tag, the content in between, and the closing tag. And if you have all that, then you've got the beginning of an element.